Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Transporter 2, starring Jason Statham, Amber Valletta, Matthew Modine, Alessandro Gassman. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, please forgive me. Jason Fleming, Kate Nada, and Keith David, directed by Louis Leterrier. Now, I do remember going to movie theaters with this with a couple of friends, and did I like it then? I I remember thinking it was a little better than the first. We'll see how this goes now. We open with Frank Martin, returned by Jason Statham, in sparking in a parking garage like he did in the first film, except he gets stopped by a bimbo or in a schoolgirl kind of dress. Excuse me. And some robbers come in and he beats them up, which is hilarious, particularly since his suit just came out of the dry cleaners. He picks up a child named Jack from school and delivers him to the parents, Audrey and Jefferson Billings, played by Amber Valletta and Matthew Modine. And Audrey is like a desperate housewife. And I didn't know they were divorced until somebody said something. Is the abusive ex-husband, I'll say. And why is he sticking around in the house? I don't get it. But who hasn't seen Jack in a month, and he accuses Audrey of only things done wrong. And I'm thinking, just get a divorce, or maybe they are divorced. I couldn't tell you, because the movie doesn't telegraph it for me very well. Because at one point she comes to Frank's place to have an affair with him. I don't even know if that's the case, but Frank rejects her. Why? Because of who Frank is. And Audrey admittedly has been drinking, and this is much more sour than the first film. The next day, Frank takes Jack, to the doctor's office for a favor, and before they arrive, Lola, played by Kate Nada, and some goons arrive to take over the doctor's office, and they almost give Jack a shot after he's afraid of a shot coming, and the goons give him a shot, barely, and Lola shoots her guns with a swimsuit. And what the hell is that? As she goes around in her underwear is beyond baffling to me. Frank gets Jack out of there, and the bad guy puts a bomb underneath Frank's car, and that's a horrible way to get into an action. As Lola, on her underwear, the bad guy, who I brought up a second ago, is named Gianni Cellini, I don't know if I'm saying that right, played by Alessandro Gassman, gets command of Frank by using Lola as the remote control of him. And I don't like the action sequence when they're driving off all over Miami and crashing into things, as Jefferson calls the cops and jumps to conclusions like Frank kidnapped the kid and acts like an ass about it, as Audrey believes Frank was kidnapped with Jack. And are these characters stupid? Because I think they are. Frank pulls off a stunt where he gets the bomb off his car and calls the Billings house and gets a Stapleton, played by Keith David, to find Jack, but instead gets a location of Frank and captures his friend Inspector Turconi, returned by Francois Berland, and take him into custody while Frank calls Audrey to let him know what ended up happening, as Frank goes and finds Jack. And these shots, there were times when the shots were horrible. When they go quick in style, in its regular pace is fine, but not great. Meanwhile, Tarconi cooks for some police officers in Miami, which is totally unacceptable comedy for an action movie like this. Frank goes after a goon to go after Gianni, and they have a chase where Frank goes on top of a truck and chases him through a mall. And the score in that sequence sounds like the Rush Hour trilogy. And they kind of ended on the school bus filled with elderly people. Let's him go after stabbing him in the leg, which is an unacceptable chase sequence. And they find the boy, and Audrey goes on to the truck as the cops, can't get it open, and they get Jack out of it. Meanwhile, Frank goes after the goon, and who happens to be named Dimitri. I didn't know that for the longest time. And Frank gets into a fight with the giant and beats him up, with watermelons as gloves, and they get to some boat and drags it down and catches up with Dimitri and kills him off, and Frank flies to get the antidote and breaks one and but catches another, and I'm now thinking this is a mess of a movie. Frank realizes Gianni's plan is to infect Jack and the parents and the virus around the world, and Frank gives Jack the cure, and it has infected Audrey and Jefferson as they go to the hospital as it infected the house. And the press conference Jefferson goes to and gets everyone sick, Frank arrives at the house of Gianni and have some battles that Frank ends up winning and gets upstairs to fight Lola and kills her with the wall of spikes, which was obviously dumb. Frank goes after Gianni as he tries to catch a plane, and Frank catches up by getting his way on the plane and fight on it as it goes on circles, and it eventually goes in the water, and Frank and Gianni fight to the end, and Frank carries Gianni out of the water and gets him arrested, and everyone is cured, and the climax is sloppy in my opinion. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 4.0 out of 10. The fight scenes felt very stupid, and the villains aren't properly dressed like Lola. That's unacceptable, and so is the plot of this movie. I do not like the way this movie was shot, and it went quick at times, and at times it went to its regular speed, as this is a mess of a movie, and I don't accept messy of a movie as it is. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Net Transporter 3, and until next time, I'm listening.